What's going on, guys? I'm Ben Bateman.
And I'm Andrew Guy.
And we are
The Action Guys.
Cool.
Ooh, I like that.
It just felt crisp.
Yeah, I like it when it's like that. You know that about me.
When I don't do something stupid.
Wow, wild card. Just made the audio pop.
Yeah.
That was my fault.
You're crazy today.
I'm all hopped up on water.
On Mountain Dew.
Cold brew.
It's been 28 seconds. Christian, are you still in the booth?
Nope. Perfect.
Fantastic.
Good. I like when we're on our own.
We're on our own.
I feel safer.
We're in the deep end.
We are in the deep end.
Can you swim?
I thought you were making a Shallows reference.
Yeah. Funny.
Was it?
No.
No. You know what is funny? Actually, he's not. He's amazingly badass. Is Powers Booth in Sudden Death.
He is terrific. That is a great segue into today's episode. We talk about action movies and other kinds of movies and things that are sweet about movies on this show here.
Yeah.
And this week on Action Movie Anatomy, which is the show we do over on Popcorn Talk, we talked about the film Sudden Death, which had been recommended by Matty Kearns, who runs the Action Industries Twitter. He's been a friend of ours for years now, and he'd been trying to get us to watch this movie forever.
And we were very reluctant. We honestly thought it was going to be terrible.
We're stubborn. We're stubborn. What can we say?
We very much are, because we've listened to the audience before, and we've covered movies that are just straight not our brand and are very bad.
It's hard when you cover a movie that just doesn't make you, like, it just doesn't feel as awesome as you want it to. And you want to get excited because it's like you don't want to be like, hey, fans who said this movie was cool, it sucked.
Yeah, like The Mechanic was a rough one for us because it was just bad. And Safe House. Didn't we do both those movies because people had recommended them?
Definitely Safe House.
Yeah, Safe House was really bad. The Mechanic had at least had some redeeming qualities.
I mean, I think they both were just like, this is good enough.
Yeah.
But like... Yeah, but in any case, this movie was more than good enough. This movie was fucking awesome.
It really was. It was like everything that you love about 90s action movies in a movie you just haven't seen before. Because, like, I feel, again, we talked about this on AMA. You were saying that a lot of people in the Schmodown world, when you've talked about this movie, they all know about it.
Yeah.
But in the general populace, I'd say 1% of people know about this movie, probably.
Well, I mean, as we said, this was Jean-Claude Van Damme, 1995. It opened number 8 that weekend.
Yeah.
Number 8. This is the next movie he made after Street Fighter. Like this, he was in kind of in his heyday at this point. And so this movie really came and went pretty fast. It's a carbon copy of Die Hard, except in a hockey rink as opposed to a building. And it's the point of this, though, because we've already done a full episode on this movie. If you want to go see that, go check it out on Popcorn Talk or download it as a podcast. Is that we realized Powers Booth is the best part of this movie by far.
100%. And Powers Booth in general as an actor feels like one of the most underrated character actors out there, period. He was never a leading man, and I don't think that he needed to be one. I think
strikingly handsome.
He's very striking. But then it got us thinking about a lot of these movies, a lot of these action movies that just wouldn't be what they were without the great villain that they have opposite the protagonist. And again, we all know we were going to do maybe the best villains of all time, but then it would just be regurgitating every list that you guys have ever seen online, or if you've ever watched our shows, it would be talking about the same 10 people that we love.
And everybody talks about the same villains, and they're great. But there's a lot of underrated villains who are either in good movies but overshadowed by the star, or in kind of mediocre movies but are the best part of the movie. Yeah. And we decided that today's episode was going to have to be a discussion of the most underrated villains of all time. And so that is going to be the subject of today's episode. We've divided these into a few different groups. Before we get into the full discussion, though, a couple quick shout-outs. You guys can follow along with what we're doing here on Twitter at the Team Action Show. Team Action Show. You guys can find me at Ben Bateman Media.
You guys can find me at Andrew Guy. You can find our Instagram at Action Industries. And, of course, Action Industries, the brand, that Ben and I started with a group of amazing people out there. YouTube.com/Action Industries is where you can find this full video episode. Now, if you want to listen to the audio episode, that is provided by Collider on the factory feed. You can get it on Podcast One, Apple Podcasts. Go in there, download, leave a comment, anything that you can do to put us higher up in the standings. It always helps us, and it helps us show Collider that we're not just in here fucking around for an hour, which we are.
But yeah, subscribe all the things that Andrew just mentioned, and check out the YouTube. So, I think we should just kind of jump in. And so the first part of the conversation that we decided to have here was, there's a list of 5 guys here, and wow,
what's up?
Just hit me that every single person on this entire list is a man.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm trying to think of the. Well, you know what? We could do an audible. No, because we're not doing any comic book movies. We're not, because Hela is a villain that we love, and people like her, but I feel like she's never in the top 3 discussed villains in the MCU. It's usually always Thanos, Killmonger, and Loki.
Yeah, and it's Yeah, it's just kind of crazy. I guess there's just not as many, and at least they're not featured as much. But in any case, just putting ourselves on blast.
Yeah, we're doing great for ourselves
doing great,
right now.
Doing great. There's also 25 white people. Just I'm kidding. That's not true.
Is it not?
Actually. Powers is not a white guy.
Is he not?
Powers is not white.
He's got to be.
No. No way.
We're actually going to stop down and start over. There was a female that I'd mentioned before, which was Rose Byrne in Spy, but it didn't feel like she made the list because she's so hilarious in it. It's hard to hate her.
Look, I'm going to power on through with our established list.
I like our list.
There's a non-white person on this list. 2, in fact.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Okay.
They're both Powers Booth.
Who is actually white. So the first category that we have, there's 20 gentlemen here that are at our discussion. The first list is 5 of them. These are you shouldn't have missed them. These are guys that are in movies that are either were huge, have a massive cult following, or they are just superstars. And there's no reason, or there's no time you ever miss a superstar coming out in a movie, you know?
Yeah, we're gonna start with number 5 on this list, and that's in fact I think we'll just list them because we have a lot to get through today.
Yeah.
So the 5 people here, you got Sean Bean as both Boromir and 006. I mean, Boromir is the hero of the story.
Boromir is the hero. He's literally, if we were to write a Boromir movie, we would write it like the way they write MacGruber, where MacGruber's actually the bad guy.
Boromir is the hero, but who's felled by ambition.
Yes, exactly. And then obviously 006 from GoldenEye, he's great in that. It was not God who gave me this face, James. It was you.
It was you. But, unfortunately, those are super famous movies, so everybody's kind of seen those. Malkovich, Cyrus the Virus, Con Air, once again, movie has been talked to death. Very, very famous villain there. Patrick Swayze as Bodhi in Point Break, one of my favorite films ever made.
Your favorite villain of all time.
Favorite villain of all time.
It did feel like with how big Catherine Bigelow's become and the fact that Swayze is no longer with us, that it's such an iconic role that it would be a disservice to the rest of the list.
Calling that movie a cult classic, I think, is a disservice too. I think it's just an
a
action classic.
Yeah.
People love Point Break. I mean, it had a fucking live show in Los Angeles for like 10 years.
Oh yeah, that's very true. Yeah, it's just a classic. Next up is another classic, also with our man Nicolas Cage from obviously we just talked about Con Air. Ed Harris as General Hummel in The Rock.
Yeah, very famous and one we've talked about at length on our various shows. It feels like this movie's pretty well loved and he's pretty well respected. I think most people have seen this, so I didn't feel like leaning into this one was necessary.
But if you haven't seen it in a long time, you need to go back and watch just for General Hummel and all of his lines. I miss you so much.
I miss you so much. But I think I said that to Paul when I saw him in New York. I think I walked up.
You did, and then you said, it's been the greatest honor of my life serving with you, General, which is another great. David Morse should just be on this list in general. He's great. So good in every role that he's in.
Yeah. And then last on the list, we have Tom Cruise as Vincent in Collateral, which is just, he's just awesome.
We could not get through a list without Tom Cruise on there.
No, of course not. I mean, this is like Cruise's only villain role, so.
Yeah, and honestly, he's phenomenal.
I wish he played more villains.
He would be a great villain. Did you watch the deepfake video that they did here at Collider for Tom Cruise's Iron Man?
Yes, and Evan did the voice.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Just weirds me out.
Yeah.
Like, very much so.
Because you realize that in the 90s, that's just what it would have been.
It's exactly what it would have been.
Yeah.
And also, it makes me realize in 10 years, that's just going to happen, where there's just fake videos of people doing things that aren't, not even in 10 years, like 2 years.
It's happening right now.
Yeah.
But yes,
we're not here.
So that's our list of the you shouldn't have missed them. Those are all classic villains. You know, it's funny actually. On just a quick note on the Tom Cruise thing, I can't remember why I looked this up the other day, but I was looking up like something to do with Collateral. I think actually what it was is I just was like, just watch the scene real quick, the alley scene. And I looked it up because it's like, it's such an awesome memory of watching that movie the first time. He's so badass. And
that's the first time you truly see it, right?
Yeah.
When he comes out and kills dudes in the alley, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you've seen him do some other stuff, but that's when you're like, don't.
Yeah. You do not mess with Vincent.
Yeah. This guy is like an unkillable killer. And the first video that came up was this like gun enthusiast on YouTube who basically breaks down gunfights in movies. But he's like a firearms guy.
Okay.
And he's like, I'm going to break down for you guys the single greatest gunplay scene ever in film. And it's the scene from Collateral. He takes you through it. He's
the
like,
alley scene.
He literally breaks down every movement in it. He's like, so.
Well, yeah, because you can tell with Cruise's form, you're like, that is a trained professional, or he's reenacting a trained professional.
He says, he's like, so Cruise's hands are up. He's like, the first thing you'll notice is that he swings his right arm to knock the gun out of the way, but then immediately puts his right arm back as he shoots from the hip so as not to shoot his own hand, which if it was in front of him could perhaps get in the way as he shoots from the hip for the fastest release.
With his right hand and then left hand, you're saying?
He like knocks the gun away, goes down to the hip, shoots the guy twice. He like breaks down every movement, and I was just like, wow, like of course it's that because it's a Michael Mann movie, but of course it's that
Because it's Cruise.
because it's Cruise.
And he probably practiced that 100 times.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. I need to go watch that.
It's a cool video. So, all right, now we're going to get into the actual meat of the show. Any plugs you want to get into before we get into the big list here?
Not really. I just want to say a big shout out to everyone that supports Action Industries, everyone in the Action Army for coming to New York with us. We were off last week for Labor Day, but we were also in New York that weekend performing. There was a Schmodown event, and we, as the Action Guys, did a show there at the New York Comedy Club in the East Village. A big shout out to Mark Ellis, to Amy, the house manager there, who Mark was telling me just raved about us. She
was so
loves
cool.
us. She was so fun. And it was just, we've been doing this for a long time. It was the first live show we've ever done. I think it was a smashing success.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's the only thing I want to plug. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was going to say there'll be some footage from that show you can see on the Action Industries YouTube, as you mentioned earlier, .com/Action Industries. A special message from our friend Will Forte, because we did a thing on MacGruber. That'll be up there pretty soon. Go check that out. And patreon.com/Team Action is the last plug. Just so you guys know, it's the number one way to support what we do. We have an amazing community of about 200 patrons on there that we interact with all the time. At the highest level, at the general level, there are these cool chats on Discord and Google Chat where everybody kind of gets to hang out. Everybody's become friends. We do these 10-minute private Google Hangouts before every single show or stream we do.
Yep. We
basically just open up the floor. We got a lot of suggestions from the Army today, from the generals, as far as their most underrated villains. We have those conversations before we go live. So check that out if you want to become a part of it. There's a lot of sweet rewards at a bunch of different levels there.
Yeah, the Patreon in general is just a really cool club to be a part of, an exclusive group of people that support directly what we do. But then the generals themselves has now become this group of almost 17 people at the highest level that are
16, in fact.
Is it 16?
No, I just almost 17.
Well, I was because I thought it was 17, almost 17. It's 10. No, but yeah, it's just crazy that the highest level there's become this club up there, and I love talking to them all the time.
Yeah, and actually the last shout out on that, just because a lot of people that joined our Patreon originally joined because they like to see behind the scenes Team Action reactions to Schmodown.
Oh yeah.
And news for you guys, the tournaments are coming up.
Oh yes, they are.
Drew is in the tournament with the family.
Yep.
I am in the tournament with Who's the Boss, and I am playing in singles, which means there's going to be a lot of behind-the-scenes Schmodowns for us to react to. You guys are going to – that's the deal, is everybody at the $2 and above level there has historically gotten reactions. $5, you get these videos that we're doing right now early. You get them 4 days early, and it's possible we just change it. It's possible we just change it so that $5 is where you get all video content.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We probably have to have a conversation about that, as there's going to be a lot of them coming up. But at the very least, we know those are going to be going up. So get excited.
The end of the year is always crazy when it comes to our Schmodown reactions.
A lot of Schmodown stuff.
So now back to the list. We've got the first group of people up. This is the Just Following Orders group, the bottom 5 of the 15 that we have pulled. These are the guys that, they're typical, just like the Nazis said. They're just following orders.
Yeah.
And we'll start off with number 15 here. It's Stephen Lang as Commander or Captain Quaritch in Avatar.
Yeah.
Now,
go ahead. A lot of people saw. A lot of people remember this movie, but a lot of people have also forgotten this movie because it's not very good.
It's not good at all.
But he's the best part.
He's really good.
He's super, super menacing. It's a very memorable role. It's one of those roles that I feel like he's physically memorable. Like his look, the silver hair and the scar.
Yeah, and he's super old man jacked.
Yeah.
He looks like he could just rip you apart.
You always talk about old man strength.
Yeah.
He's got total old man strength.
Oh, and he's got old man hate. He's got Vietnam in his eyes, as Coy would say.
Vietnam in his eyes. Yeah, he's got a lot of anger. He's pretty much a total misogynist. He's very racist.
Yep.
He's the worst of humanity, in fact, but he's a great villain.
He's a really, really great villain, and I love Stephen Lang. I really like him in Don't Breathe. Is another one of my favorite movies he's in. Maybe that's what we can do is we can mention another movie from each of these guys that we really love them in. So Stephen Lang is number 15 as Quaritch. Following that is number 14.
Brian Cox. William Stryker, X2, X United. This is that run Brian Cox had. This is the run that inspired our old category, which we don't bring up much anymore, just add Cox, where anything Brian Cox is in gets 12% better. And Cox from 95 to 05 was just in so much stuff. And he was so sweet in all of it. He's a really good striker.
He really is a great striker. I loved, because this is when I watched X2, that was back when I didn't really know who Brian Cox was. I'd seen him in movies, obviously, but I didn't have the adoration for him that I do now.
Yeah.
Stryker's just great, right? He does a great story. Bore out as with a drill or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, try to get the voices to stop. And his delivery is just very matter of fact and methodical. And I like his death. I think his death is super great.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you have a favorite Brian Cox role outside of Stryker?
There's a lot.
Never heard of him.
I love him in I love him in Bourne. I'm a big fan of him in Adaptation. He plays the writer. I think he's great in there. That's really memorable for me. I mean, obviously, Troy and Braveheart.
Yeah, Uncle Argyle. What is his? Because it's been so long since I've watched the movie. What is his actual most evil moment as Stryker?
It's been a while since I've watched this too. We didn't do this on the show, right? We ended up doing First Class instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think his sweetest part as Stryker, it's got to be when he's like delivering a speech and he's talking about his son.
Yeah.
And that has to be the moment because he just feels so like methodically evil, and you realize all his fear is why he is the way he is. But he's just a very like. Also, I love that moment. Like, what is he behind? He's talking to Wolverine like through the wall or the glass or the ice or something like that.
Yeah.
And he says something, and Wolverine starts like banging on it because he's like, you know who I am, all that stuff. I just remember that movie being sweet. I don't know, it's been a while since I watched it.
I love William Stryker. He's super great. So number 13, we have Yayan Ruhian, who is Mad Dog from the Raid Redemption. He has like 3 lines in the movie.
He's just a badass fighter.
He's just the coolest.
Yeah.
Like, he kills the guy that you think is probably the secondary lead in a fist fight, and the dude's like a foot taller than him. He's got like 80 pounds on him.
He wrecks him. And he's so fast. This is the guy that Gareth Edwards? Nope, wrong name.
That's the director.
That's the director?
Or Gareth Evans.
Gareth
right?
Evans, there you go. Edwards, somebody else. Gareth Evans, this is the guy that he said he wanted to popularize and make famous, his style of fighting. That's why he made the Raid. And obviously he couldn't be the lead, but Iko was the lead, and he gets to play one of the bad guys.
Yeah, because it's a very specific type of Indonesian, I believe, fighting style that's just awesome.
Yeah, super awesome. Yeah, he's great in this movie. He's very memorable. He's super ferocious.
His death is really badass. Yeah. What's the movie that he's in where he like fights John Wick 3?
Yeah, he's in John Wick 3.
Where it's just like it's clear that the two of them would just destroy John.
Yeah, it was to destroy him.
But he's in it, so we're happy that his career is going that way.
Number 12, you have the second last category in the Just Following Orders category, and that is Brian Dennehy as Teasel. I think it's Will Teasel. It's definitely Teasel.
Sounds right.
In First Blood. So he finds Stallone on the side of the road, and Stallone's like, is there someone to get a bite to eat around here? And he's like, yeah, about 30 miles down the road.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, he doesn't want him in town. And
he's just an asshole.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, he just will not leave Rambo, John J. alone.
He hates him, and he hates that, John's a Vietnam guy, but, he's pissed because, he doesn't get any respect from the Korean War. He fought in the Korean War, and he feels like, he gets no respect from Vietnam vets, and, he just doesn't want him in his town.
Is Dennehy's career-defining role Teasel, or is it Tommy Boy's dad?
Big Tom Callahan? It's got to be one of the two.
Right?
I mean, if you ask me who Brian Dennehy is, those are the roles that come to mind immediately.
Only two that pop in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, he was in a bunch of shit over the years, but those are definitely the ones. I think it's probably Big Tom Callahan at this point.
I love that Big Tom Callahan's a thing. And last in the Just Following Orders category is our boy, the retired Gene Hackman, as Commander Ramsey, maybe?
Captain, maybe?
Captain? Commander?
Admiral.
In Crimson Tide.
Terms we would use in the Team Action Patreon rankings.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, he's a racist. He's old school. And he's great in this movie.
I like how half this list is just racist. Is the bottom 5. Yeah, I love it. The initial meeting between him and Denzel is just an incredibly well-acted power struggle between two guys that are not willing to move an inch.
Yeah.
And then when he actually loses his shit at the end of the movie, he's just, you love to hate him.
Yeah. That's awesome. His confrontations with Denzel are amazing.
It's a very short list.
It's a very short list, yeah. His stuff when he's talking to his dog, when he's been locked up.
Oh,
it's great.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just awesome. I mean, the whole entire sequence when when Denzel takes over the boat, takes over the sub, is so awesome.
You're talking about their
the confrontation, unless both you and I agree, and then he's like, he orders him to take him and lock him up, and that's so awesome. Yeah. God, that movie's good. That movie's really good.
Really underrated. And that's kind of the idea of this list, is you're going to be looking back at these movies. You might have seen them once, or maybe not have seen them at all, and this is just a reason to go back and revisit or visit them for the very first time. This next one, the next category, we've got the B Team. The first one on this list feels It was a pretty big movie when it came out. RDJ
Yeah.
was in a big moment. It's Mark Strong as Lord Blackwood,
Not Moriarty.
not Moriarty. That's
and-
Jared Harris.
That's Jared. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, Jared Harris.
Yeah.
That's him
Yeah.
from Mission Impossible.
Yeah. I
Huh.
think so. Yeah. Yeah, he's in Mission Impossible.
He's the bad guy.
In
5 and 6, right?
no.
Different
That's
guy?
that's a different guy.
We sure about this? Have we got-
Sean Harris.
Ah,
Yeah.
Never mind.
But yeah, Mark Strong is Lord Blackwood. This was the first time I really saw him as an American, like in an American film as a guy. Like
Yeah.
I didn't really notice him ever before in movies.
He's in a couple of those Guy Ritchie movies,
Yep.
but yeah, like this is the breakout role. It feels like, and then from here he has a really big 10 years.
Yeah, and I couldn't be happier for the dude. I love Mark Strong. I love his like weird side tooth thing that they have.
He's got kind of a snaggle tooth.
And he's got like that sweet glass blade that he almost kills Jude Law with, but
Yeah.
then Downey sees it.
Yeah,
He's just menacing. He's evil.
he's
got
really
great
evil. Yeah,
look.
and he's got a great look, great sound. This Mark Strong feels like a guy that he's like super famous now, but he feels like a guy that could win an Oscar.
I think he will.
Yeah.
I really do. What is the movie that I'm thinking of most recently where he plays like a dude with sideburns and he's like American? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Dude with sideburns.
I thought so.
I mean,
he's
he's in,
or maybe no.
he's in Kingsman too.
No,
That
it's
was-
not that.
Country roads.
roads,
Don't take me
Oh, Shazam.
home. Oh yeah,
That was. I mean, I don't know if he has sideburns in it,
does.
but I remember that he was just in that.
Say, I was about to say Shazam. You were like sideburns. I was like, what?
That couldn't be it.
What are you talking about?
What is the movie I'm thinking? I'm gonna type it in.
But
I'm gonna-
Blackwood is really sweet and he's great. I actually think Downey is perfect in this role, but I do really think that Mark Strong's the best part of the movie, which is why he makes this list for me, because that movie feels like it's elevated pretty greatly by having a legitimately menacing villain.
Yeah, you needed a really good villain on that one, and if it was miscast, it would have been, or let's say if he would have just sucked.
Yeah.
If Mark Strong would have sucked, it feels like it would have just been like he would have come and gone.
Yeah,
just
pretty
like that.
bottom of the barrel. So next up on the list, we've got Albert Brooks is Bernie Rose in Drive. And this one, I'm happy we put this on here.
Me
'cause
too.
I think he's such a great class of villain in this movie because he's so, like, he's friendly. And then there's that scene later with the knife.
That knife slit, or the wrist slit with a knife on Cranston, like the feeble old cripple Cranston. One of my favorite moments in a movie that sticks with me in a bad way.
It's so, like, creepy and unsettling when it happens.
There, it's over. It's over. It's done. It's already done.
That's why he's such a good villain, is because
Yeah.
he's cast against type in that role, but it's such a memorable role. He just like Perlman's the other bad guy, but you don't care about Perlman. In that.
No, you really don't. Even though he's kind of the one that Gosling goes after right before. He also has that moment with the guy that's kind of the fuck up, the
Yeah.
idiot, where he stabs him in like the throat a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Right across from Ron Perlman. He's like, "You made a mess. I had to clean it up. Now you can clean up my mess." And he like,
Yeah.
looks at him and then he just kills the dude. It's gnarly. Like that movie in general is really. I love Drive.
The way that there's a lot of like the way he talks to Cranston in that movie. The sort of like condescending, you need me,
always
fake
it's-
compassion.
So much power.
Yeah, it's really creepy and very memorable, and that's one of the reasons I think that he makes the list. He makes it so high for us. Is I think he's one of the strongest parts of that whole movie.
Yeah, and our good friend Alex, who I used to work with, for years, he's always like, "That's Nemo's dad. That's who that is." That's all I can think of when I hear his voice. But then I watch him do that. And
Yeah.
It's very unsettling. So, yeah, guys, go watch Bernie Rose if you haven't already. And I'm going to let you take number 8, Ben.
Yeah, number 8. Officer Murtaugh, don't be foolish. Look at the hardware. It's gonna be Gary Busey.
Look at my teeth.
Look at my teeth. Look at my hammer pants. It's Busey is a legend as Mr. Joshua in Lethal Weapon 1, 1987. When we covered this movie on Action Movie Anatomy, I remember years ago now. This was like when the first year. I hadn't seen it, or if I had seen it, it was when I was a kid.
Same.
And I didn't remember almost anything about it.
Yeah.
And when he shows up as a character at first, I remember that he was in it, but then like later when he shows up in that scene in the desert with like the wind flapping and the white
And
sweater,
he's just the whitest thing you've ever seen in your life.
he's wearing all the white on. He's got like
Yep.
the maroon V-neck sweater and the sunglasses and the way he steps out and his
smiles.
teeth and the way they shine in the sun. He's just like But he's a great villain. He's sweet.
Yeah,
and
isn't it like one of the first things he does, like burn his arm?
Yeah,
Like
he
hold
puts
a lighter up to him or something?
Mr. Joshua, please wrench your arm, and he does.
Yeah.
And then he just burns it. He just doesn't even flinch. I love the stories within this movie, you know, he had been really famous in the 70s and 80s, and then he had like really fallen on hard times.
right.
And so he had like lost a bunch of weight, and he got the audition for Lethal Weapon, and he was like, I hadn't auditioned in years, but I was excited, so he like auditioned for it and he got it, and this was like a big deal, but kind of a comeback. And then he got, you know, gained a lot of weight again. So
He did his thing.
but this was a great moment in Busey's career, and it's a very, very memorable villain. It's funny because there's that older guy who's the other
The
villain,
actual bad guy.
but Mr. Joshua in the end is the most proficient villain.
Yeah,
So,
because him and Gibson have that sweet slow motion fight in the rain.
in the rain,
It's really well done.
aged badly.
It's aged horribly. Next up is Guy Pearce as Count Mondego. I think that Guy Pearce is arguably one of the greatest villains, like villainous actors out there. I love him in Lawless as well.
Because he has such a punchable face.
He just has an evil face. He just does. It's like
Yeah.
if you were friends with that guy in real life, you'd think he was going to backstab you at any moment. And Mondego, I mean, if you guys have seen The Count of Monte Cristo, you know The Count of Monte Cristo. It's one of the greatest revenge stories, period. And Guy Pearce just executes it perfectly. He's such
Yeah.
a shit to Henry Cavill as his son. He's horrible to his wife, who you love. And then obviously he betrays his best friend to take the woman that he doesn't even care about. Like, he's just evil all the way through. And I love his death.
Yeah,
I love his
it's a
death.
great death. I mean, yeah, this movie's awesome. This movie's really underrated. He's great. He is like, yeah, he's such an asshole.
Why is this movie so underrated?
I just think it's one of those movies from this time period that, like, it's based on an old book. I'm pretty sure this had been made before, right?
I think so.
I'm almost positive The Count of Monte Cristo had been made into a movie like in the 60s or 70s at some point.
It sounds
And-
correct.
And I'm sure it'll get remade again soon.
TV movie in 75,
Yeah.
actual movie in 34.
Exactly. It's a very old book. I'm sure it'll get remade again soon. And I think at the time when this came out, the people that were in it, you know, Guy Pearce had done Memento 2 years earlier. It's right, like he wasn't that famous yet. And
Caviezel had been Jesus already, or no?
No, that's
It was
after
next
this.
year, yeah, or the next couple of years.
You know, Caviezel. So like, neither of these guys was that famous. It was just kind of that movie at that time.
Yeah.
But it's great.
Do you know who directed that movie?
It's somebody like legit. I think it's I'm just gonna see if I can get there. I don't think it's Martin Campbell. I think it's the other guy who did. It's the other guy who I think did Planet of the Apes.
He did. So his movies. No, his movies are pretty short. So he did Risen, Tristan and Isolde,
Huh.
Waterworld, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. So those are the two big ones. Those are the three big ones, I guess. Kevin Reynolds.
Oh
I
yeah.
would have never got there.
Yeah. No. Okay. Must have been at some point, but yeah.
But yeah, so that's our number 7. I love Guy Pearce. I love Count Mondego. Number 6, Simon Gruber. Simon Says.
Simon Gruber, Jeremy Irons, yeah, in Die Hard with a Vengeance, a very, very, very famous role. A role a lot of people, look at as one of the great villains of the
Simon
'90s.
Says.
People like remember this very fondly, and he's very evil. I think that this movie's really good. I was less impressed with it when I watched it on the show like last year, whenever we did it.
Yeah.
Like it had a lot that I liked, but it felt like it slowed down.
This is my Die Hard movie.
It's your favorite.
This is my one.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't watch Die Hard every Christmas, or I didn't watch it with my family growing up. I watched this with my good friend Trevor Farmer. His parents had a black box that they
Yeah.
had copied this onto a VHS tape, and I watched this movie religiously. Every time we hung out, we watched this movie. He's just the best. He's so evil, and it's not even because of him, because he's not intimidating or anything. It's about his crazy killer girlfriend with like the scythes, and then like the gigantic dude.
And he's got the tank top with like pretty jacked shoulders,
Yeah.
and like the military sunglasses.
Exactly.
He's like a very memorable look.
Yeah. And then you find out that he's Hans Gruber's brother, which
Yeah.
is like, holy shit, mind blown.
Yeah, and the way his voice sounds, he does like the American
Simon
accent.
Says.
Doesn't he do an American accent at one point also?
Yeah, he does,
Fakes the
I
American
believe.
accent.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's a classic throwback. Bill Clay.
Bill Clay.
R.I.P., man.
So good. Love Rickman so much. All right, so guys, that's the end of the second, the B team as we're calling it. So a quick recap is Stephen Lang as Quaritch in Avatar, Brian Cox as William Stryker in X2, Yayan Ruyan as Mad Dog in The Raid Redemption, Brian Dennehy as Will Teasel and Big Tom Callahan, no, just kidding, in Rambo First Blood, Gene Hackman as Ramsey in Crimson Tide, Mark Strong as Lord Blackwood in Sherlock Holmes, Albert Brooks as Bernie Rose in Drive, Gary Busey as Mr. Joshua
Joshua.
in Lethal Weapon, Guy Pearce as Count Mondego in The Count of Monte Cristo, and finally Simon Gruber, played by Jeremy Irons in Die Hard with a Vengeance. Now for the top 5.
The worst of the worst. And we're starting off with my personal favorite on this list. Number 5 is Val Kilmer as Dieter von Kuntz.
This is an unbelievable performance. One of my favorite moments, conversations we had live in New York, was the conversation of who's the better fat, sweaty version, Val Kilmer or Russell Crowe. It was so funny. The next day, my sister had come to the show, and she lives there, and she was like, yeah, it was really fun. I was like, yeah, I'm sure, for you it was probably like a little less fun than it could have been because you haven't seen MacGruber. She was like, yeah, I haven't watched it. She was like, the best part of the show is when you guys were talking about fat sweaty Kilmer versus fat sweaty Crowe. She was like, that's like universally funny. She's like, that's funny to everybody.
It's because they both wear it so well.
So well. I mean, it's top level stuff for both those guys. And I think you said Crowe, right?
I actually did say Crowe, just because he was like my hero growing up as a kid, and then when I saw him in The Nice Guys, I was just so won over.
So won over. And because somebody asked me yesterday, like, when did it start happening? And I was like, oh, he was like
Body of Lies.
He's transitioning around that time.
Yeah,
he's
transitioning.
You got him there, and he's starting to put on some weight. And State of Play around the same time. And then Robin Hood, he's
lean.
He's
hard.
He's a generous Robin Hood though, and then he's, as it continues, he goes for it. And I think he leaned into it.
Leaned very hard into it.
But we're not talking about Crowe right now. We're talking about Kilmer, and his Dieter von Kuntz is one of my favorite action movie villains ever. He's so memorable as this character. He gets the joke.
Yep.
He plays it perfectly.
He's so serious. It could be quite the fly in the ointment. His lines are ridiculous.
Do you remember the assassination of President Jimmy Carter? What assassination? Exactly.
Do not underestimate this man. Hang that in the foyer and go kill MacGruber.
Yeah. There's also like a lot of moments in this movie that are just like my favorite. I love when he's painting the woman.
Wetter.
More.
Yeah, and he is. That was one of the things we talked about in New York. Is the reason MacGruber succeeds is because it takes itself so seriously in Powers Booth and Val Kilmer.
Yeah,
they have to.
Incredible.
Yeah,
huge fan. It's one of Kilmer's greatest roles. It's also just so wonderful when you see guys that, like Val Kilmer was like a sex symbol. He was Batman. Like the fact his willingness to play like a silly action movie villain when he's a little heavier and to like be so silly is so charming. It really is so memorable. I mean, I can't get enough of it. Like,
I want to hug him.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty excited for him in Top Gun 2.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see how that. Do you think he's going to lose a little weight?
I think he already has.
Right?
I saw him introduce a screening of it last week, and it looked like he's aged a little bit. And I think because he had throat cancer, so I think
he did.
Yeah, for a while.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I think it looks like his face has changed a little bit. I think, though it could have just been the picture. I'm not totally sure. So, but I mean, I'm definitely very excited. It's Kilmer. He's a fucking legend. Like there's like 6 or 7 Kilmer roles that are all like legends and like classic, just like. Right? I mean, like
Heat, obviously.
Heat's amazing. Batman's great. The Doors,
Batman. The Saint. Anybody?
The Saint. Anybody? I mean,
Ghost in the Darkness.
Yeah. Deja Vu.
Oh, he's that was the first time I ever saw him transitioning. Is to use your terminology. Yeah. I saw him and I was like, whoa.
Yes.
Still in.
Yeah. No disrespect for the term transitioning. I think it's funny because of the connotation that it has to sexuality.
Yeah.
But describing an actor gaining weight with the same term is why we're giggling.
Yes.
That's the only
I hope
reason.
we're not offending anybody. Next up, we have Damn Him, Damn That Man. Not Tom Wilkinson in The Patriot, but Jason Isaacs as Colonel Tavington in The Patriot. He kills both of Mel Gibson's son, including Heath Ledger.
He's incredibly evil. I've talked about it at length. But the scene, this is my favorite scene in the whole entire movie.
I'm so excited.
Because he's done his killing, and like he and his troops are kind of down somewhere in like a swamp or something. And he's sitting there, and he has long hair that's normally up, and his hair is down. And it's like flowing.
It's very much flowing. And he's shaving with a straight razor.
And his hair is very long, and you're a little bit like, you're kind of feminine, dude. Like you're shaving with a straight razor. You're pretty. You're pretty.
You're very pretty. You're keeping yourself very well kept.
You've got pretty nice hair.
War.
Pretty nice hair. Mm-hmm. And he sees Ledger. Riding over the hill to come kill him, and the look in his eye. He knows he's about to fuck shit up.
He's about to kill someone.
And so you see him kind of turn, and his hair flows in the wind. And he's holding a knife, and he throws her the gun.
It's a
knife.
It's a knife in the beginning, I think.
No, it's got to be the gun. because he shoots him, right?
Yeah.
And he flips his gun over in slow mo.
That's the pistol.
The pistol,
Yeah.
and then catches it to take out Ledger, and it's such a beautiful scene, and he's just so evil.
It's magnificently shot.
He's so evil, and it's so cinematic, and it's like also so like cartoony. He's like so cartoonishly evil.
He is a cartoon villain, but he's great at it.
Yeah.
And I love the line at the end. He's like, "Kill me before the war is over, will you?"
Yeah.
I think not.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, I had never seen this movie until we did it on the show, and he's instantly stuck in my mind as one of my favorite villains I'd ever seen.
I love Jason Isaacs.
He's great.
He's one of the ultimate shitwizzles of all time.
Yeah, and he's a guy that if I ever met him, I would have a hard time talking about anything other than this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, like there's some other shit. Like he's in Armageddon, right? Isn't he? He's one of the scientists.
that sounds right.
You know, I think there's a few other things, but this would be the one.
If I ever saw Xander Berkeley, all I can talk to him about is Air Force One.
Silencers.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Xander Berkeley. He got a lot of sweet roles we can talk about.
Oh yeah, he's the stepdad in
Terminator 2.
Yep.
He's Ralph, the boyfriend, the guy that she's dating in Heat.
Yeah.
The television set.
Yes.
This is one of my favorites.
That's so good.
I mean, Xander's in.
fucking television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ralph's, I mean, Xander's really good in a lot of different shit. He's great. So that's Tavington. We're going to move on to our top 3 right now.
Yeah, and these are big ones. If you haven't seen these movies, or if you don't appreciate these villains, you must go back and revisit because these 3 are incredible. And we're going to start it off with our main man, the man of the hour, also in MacGruber.
Yeah. Powers Booth. Joshua Foss in Sudden Death made number 3 on this list. Truly somebody I find to be very memorable. You know, a villain that sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
Now, he has some lines. I want to pull them up because
If he wasn't in Sudden Death,
Yeah.
it would be a god-awful, atrocious
it'd
movie.
be a hard movie to watch.
And
not gonna lie.
the writing for him is perfect. The delivery and what he does is amazing. He looks incredibly evil and strikingly evil, if you will.
Yeah.
And the lines, like Ben's pulling up right now, the lines are just so good. It almost feels like no one wrote the movie other than just his lines, and then they just like built a movie around them.
Yeah, they were like, we're gonna have this unbelievable villain with these unbelievable lines in this movie, and then really, but he's not even the star; he's the bad guy. Shouldn't Jean-Claude have some lines? They're like,
No.
he could just be like, oh, look at this fryer I'm still on in the kitchen for this fight that I'm about to have.
I'll use this stove to burn her.
I'll use this big knife. I will use this. I will use this washing machine to strangle this bird.
That's exactly what happens in that movie.
We didn't get to tell the story on
I
the
know.
show.
I thought about it. I thought about it's action. He said action.
Should we just tell it right now before we get into the Joshua Foss lines, or is this too long-winded? Maybe?
I think we gotta tell it. It's good.
So we'll use some Joshua Foss lines in a second here.
Yeah.
But so we knew this guy, and I won't name names just for the sake of respect.
Yeah.
Professional respect.
That's right.
We knew a guy who was a voiceover guy for a long time. Had a great voice. Like you recognize his voice.
got a great voice.
Yeah, but he sounds like he should be, a truck guy or a Budweiser kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he was an agent, and he did like a big time agent. He did a lot of stuff for a long time. And so we were talking about Jean-Claude one day, and he's also the guy that at the bar would be drinking and be a few deep, because this is back when Drew and I were servers, bartenders, and he was a regular. So we'd see him all the time, and he would tell us stories, and he'd always be a few deep, and he'd start telling you stories about his life.
About all the successes that he'd had.
Yeah, and he was like, and he always, because he was like an incredibly passionate artist,
Yeah.
actor who became an agent, and he would fight for his guy. So every story that he would tell you would be from the heart. It was the most intense experience I'd ever had. And so he's like talking about his brother one day, was working on set with Jean-Claude, and that he was there. He was there watching, and that apparently he's watching kind of on the side, and Jean-Claude's like, behind some box that he's supposed to pop out from for the scene.
Right.
And the director's like, action.
And then
Nothing
Jean-Claude,
happens.
yeah, and like, isn't Jean-Claude like talking shit to his brother or talking shit to someone?
He says action, nothing happens. He calls action again, nothing happens. Action, and then like Jean-Claude like walks out and he's on his phone and he's like yelling and screaming.
yes.
He's like, I'm on the phone call or something like that. And he comes out.
fire is on.
Yeah. And he's in like a yelling match with our friend's brother, and he's yelling, and apparently our buddy looks at him and he's like, he said action, Jean-Claude. And he's like, come again? What was that? And he's like, so I leaned into him and I get right in his face and I pick up the apple he'd thrown at my brother.
I said,
And I look into him and I say, he said action, Jean-Claude.
and that was it. They shot the scene.
And I think he walked away from me. I think he respected that I'd gotten in his face. So he gave me this look like, I get it, man. The stories we'd get from that guy were my favorite thing. There's so many good ones.
There's so many good ones, but that one is always one of my favorites because you know Jean-Claude did not give a fuck about what he had to say.
You also don't even know if it happened that way at all.
Yeah, probably didn't. He probably said it from like way far away and no one could hear him. He said action,
So I
Jean-Claude.
got in his face.
So I got his face, and I said. So one of our favorite stories. What does Joshua Foss have here?
Foss is just so evil, and he really kills a lot of people.
Kills a lot of people.
And he doesn't show, like I was gonna say, I think he's the villain you would describe. We always use the phrase, he's as ruthless as he is cunning.
Yes.
Like he really is as ruthless as he is cunning. He just kills fools.
He just kills everyone. Yeah, I mean, people. If there's even like a stutter on the phone of the ransom he wants, he just kills people. He killed the mayor.
So the favorite line is right. He's looking at the vice president and he's got him hostage, and he's like, I know what you're thinking. Evaluate the situation, calculate potential losses, and take the appropriate action. Well, let me do that for you. The situation is hopeless. Losses would be unacceptable. So the appropriate action for you is to do nothing and keep your fucking mouth shut. Powers.
It feels like it should be right out of Team America World Police. Like it's written like that. But
Yep.
he delivers it with such conviction. You're like, I'm in. I'm so in.
I mean, she's like, the vice president's like, what do you want? And he's like, what do I want? World peace, an end to bigotry, and no more mini malls. What am I going to get? And am I going to get it? That, boys and girls, is really hot. So many good lines.
Such a creep. And then he almost kills the little girl.
Yeah.
He tries to kill her numerous times.
It's so ridiculous. I mean, everything he says, the vice president's like, that agent's name was Eddie Colleen. He's a 5-year-old boy, a 3-year-old little girl, and his wife's pregnant. He's like, I'll send a card.
I'll send a card. Yeah.
I mean, just everything he says is just incredible. Powers steals the show. You know, I'm realizing right now, looking at this list,
Yeah.
we forgot. In the conversation when we were making this list, at one point you were like, who did you just say? And I was like, I just said this. And you're like, okay. We forgot to write down somebody on here.
Who?
You want to kill me, don't you, Taka?
Oh, yeah. Quaylen.
Get in line.
Get in line.
That's a tough miss.
Yeah, that is a real rough one. I guess you would put him in maybe the top of the pack, the worst of the worst.
He's right in the top 5.
Quaylen by
Lithgow.
Lithgow.
Lithgow plays Quaylen in Cliffhanger, and he's a terrific Hans Gruber knockoff. I mean, a lot of these guys are. I mean, that's exactly what Powers Booth is.
100%.
But I mean, I think Quaylen, to be honest with you, I'm looking at this, feels like
3.
he's right in this. He's right in the top 2-3. Like,
Yeah.
So that's important to it's notable. I'm glad I remembered it.
I'm really glad. Yeah, because I love his line, Taka. Yeah, there's a great old video, if you're a patron, where Ben does the respect the cock speech from Magnolia as Quaylen.
as Quaylen.
As Quaylen. Respect the cock.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's really stupid.
It was one of these ill-fated, short-lived impression series we tried doing.
Speaking of people just reenacting Hans Gruber, you've got Gary Oldman in Air Force One. It's Die Hard on a plane.
Ivan Kuroshinov. On the very first episode we ever did of Action Movie Anatomy, it was Air Force One, and we recorded this funny sketch.
To us, it was funny.
Nicolas Cage.
Actually, no, that shit was hilarious.
Reading for the role of Ivan Kuroshinov in Air Force One, and I was talking about my buddy DJ at Fantasy Zone yesterday, and I brought it up, and he was like, "Didn't you guys say something like, oh yeah, I know Glenn, he's great."
I know Glenn, he's great. Glenn Close, what?
It's so stupid, but the actual role. Gary Oldman, obviously at this point in his career, is just crushing it. I mean, he's so villainous. For 10 years, he had been playing these really intense characters, and he gets really angry in this movie a few times.
He gets very angry a lot, and it's really awesome.
Yeah,
You refuel the plane? I'll crash. It's like it's just crazy. He's amazing.
He's insane. The plane takeover was one of the best parts of the movie.
I still, to this day, Air Force One's got to be in my top 10 action movies. I love that movie.
I love that
so
movie.
much.
I mean, that was the reason. It was the first episode we ever did of Action Movie Anatomy.
Yeah.
I asked Glenn Close this year, if she would make a sequel. And but she'd have to play the president.
I was going to say she has to be the president.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
She should do it.
Oh my God. Could you imagine if they all came back?
Other than, of course, Harrison.
Just because he's too old?
I guess. I don't think he'd want to do it.
No, he definitely would.
But if she was the president, I mean, I don't know if Glenn Close in this day and age today would want to play an action hero.
Who?
Glenn Close?
No, definitely not.
Yeah. I mean, she's awesome. She should have won the Oscar this year.
My favorite Harrison Ford moment is in Bruno. It's the best part where they tease.
Exclusive interview with Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford. Fuck off.
So good. The
All
question
right.
is, do you think that Do you know
if that's real or not?
Yeah.
I feel like it's got to be real.
Yeah, right?
But it also feels like it. I don't know, because then it kind of makes him look like a prick. But he's
Yeah.
also been known for being prickly.
Yeah, well, what's the one where he shows up in someone's kitchen?
That's where David Blaine comes to his house, right? And he's in his kitchen doing magic.
Harrison Ford?
Yeah. And he's like,
How are you in my house? Or something like that.
He's like, how'd you get in my house? Yeah. Harrison Ford seems like he could be the coolest dude or the biggest asshole,
I mean,
and
when
I'd be fine with it.
When I met him, he just didn't say much.
Yeah.
He was kind of seemed kind of grumpy,
Yeah.
you know?
God, I wanted Nolte so bad on the carpet.
I know, me too.
I bet he's grumpy.
Yeah.
I bet he is. I bet he is.
But
was
yeah,
good.
Oldman as Karashnav is just a legend. I mean, it's just such an incredible villain, and it's one of those villainous performances that when they talked about how in the '90s they would hire the best actors in these movies.
Yeah.
They would go after like these Oscar winners to play the villains, and there's a reason, because you'd get stuff like that. You'd get stuff exactly like Gary Oldman in this movie, where he's a top level actor, just crushing at the top of his game in this movie.
I mean, if you're Russian, I don't mean to offend you. I felt like he was just completely authentic. Like his accent was perfect. Like everything about him. Like I mean, I don't know, because again, if you're watching this and you're like us when you listen to people do American accents, and
Yeah.
you're just like, that's fucking terrible.
Yeah, right.
I hope that's not the case, but it just feels like he's firing on all cylinders there. And then of course, number one, this is a guy that we've talked about, a role, a movie that we've talked about time and time again. We're going to talk it to death, and it just feels like this had to be the number one.
It's an AMA favorite. And
Yeah.
It is Mission Impossible 3. The character Owen Davian, Where is the Rabbit's Foot? It's the opening scene of the film. Count to 10. Cruise is strapped to a chair. They're trying to
Michelle
find
Monaghan
out.
strapped to a chair.
They're trying to figure out where the rabbit's foot is. That squirrely looking guy's got a broken nose.
Yeah.
And Davian is at, and he kills, and you know, spoiler alert, gets to 10, and he shoots Michelle Monaghan. It's such an amazing scene.
Right in front of Cruise.
It's such an incredible, like it's truly like Cruise at the top of his game, because he's being pushed by such a talented actor.
yeah.
Here.
Yep. Yeah, the acting in that scene is probably the best. It is the best acting in the entire franchise.
Yeah.
That one moment.
And Cruise is so good, and PSH is so good. I mean, he just I got to ask JJ about this like a few months back
Yeah.
on a carpet about shooting this scene, and he didn't expound on it as much as I wanted him to, but I just remember him saying, like, you know, filming that day, you know, it was like this really intense experience, and he was so committed to his craft, like kind of some general stuff. But
Yeah.
I could feel he seemed like he got very sad when he was talking about it, like.
I feel like if you were in the same room as that dude ever as a creative, you
Yeah.
could just tell.
Yeah.
You're literally working with a once in a lifetime actor.
Talent.
Yeah, I mean, the things that I love about that is his lazy, sloppy delivery of his
Yeah.
lines. It's like he almost can't even bother to talk.
Yeah, right.
You know, and
the
then
rabbit's not in Paris.
Yeah. And like you hear everything he says. You know it's deliberate. It's those small choices he makes. And then again, we talked about this on the show when we covered MI3 on Action Movie Anatomy, was the moment when he embodies Cruise, when it's supposed to be Cruise as him.
Yeah.
And he's all climbing around like a monkey. And he's moving quick. He's very agile. It's just a thing. Like, I don't know if that was Cruise's idea. I don't know if it was JJ's idea. I don't know if it was Philip's idea. But it was just, again, he literally moves like he's a different human being.
Yeah.
And it's only for like a 20-second shot?
Yeah, there was a couple. This movie I want to watch again because I haven't seen it in a few years. But Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, and I watched some
Yeah.
scenes from it the other day on YouTube.
That movie's gnarly.
It's intense, and he's just so good. Everything he's in, he just is so affecting.
He kills his own parents
Yeah.
in a robbery, right?
Yeah, I
Isn't that
think
what it
so.
is? Or like the people he hires?
I can't remember exactly what happens, but yeah, something like that.
His brother's Ewan. I mean, Ethan.
Yeah,
Ethan Hawke. Yeah.
Marissa Tomei, and maybe Sweet.
Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, he's sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, Davian. I mean, there's just that everything he says, you know, like, and this is, you know, this movie came out in 2005, right? It's the same year that he won his Oscar
For Capote.
Yeah, this is the next movie that came out after Capote. So he was very much in that, like, oh, Philip Seymour Hoffman, oh, he's up for a big role. Everybody loved Capote. Oh, he might win the Oscar this year. Oh, wow, he's the villain in Mission Impossible. Let's go see this. Like, you know, it was that kind of a thing.
And everyone felt like that movie was too dark, but I also feel like enough time has passed now. Maybe if you go back and watch it, it's a complete segue from the rest, or like it's the black sheep of the entire franchise.
Right.
It feels very different from what 4, 5 are, and obviously what 1 and 2 are.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Agreed. So that's the list, guys. That is our list of the top 15 underrated action movie or just even movie villains of all time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You guys kick ass. Follow along everything we're doing at Team Action Show on Twitter. Follow me personally at Ben Bateman Media.
you guys can find me at Andrew Guy, and let us know down below in the comment section whether it is on YouTube /Action Industries or if it is on whatever respective podcast app you use. Let us know if we miss anyone on the list. Let us know if there's villains in there that you think we just completely forgot about, or if there's people on this list that you do not think belong. Yeah, that's it, man.
That's going to wrap it up. Thanks, guys. Check out patreon.com/teamaction if you want to go join the fun, and keep your eyes open for unbelievable Schmodown reactions. Drew and I actually did an entire round 1 bracket prediction of the Schmodown Ultimate Singles Tournament, so you can go find that. It was a full live stream. We posted that on Sunday night, the 8th of September, so go check that out. We do an entire hour breaking down every single matchup and what we think. And yeah, you guys are awesome. Thanks. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Bye.